Rihanna never explained where she was in November 2012. 3 days completely vanished. Her management said flu-like symptoms, but hospital records tell a different story. When she emerged, she was different. Her voice, her eyes, even the way she walked had changed. And ever since, she's been silencing anyone who asks what happened to the old Rihanna. This isn't about celebrity gossip or tabloid rumors. This is about medical records that were sealed, hospital staff who signed NDAs they refused to break even today, and security footage that disappeared within hours. This is about 3 days that transformed one of the world's biggest stars into someone else entirely. Some transformations happen gradually. Others occur in controlled environments, under clinical supervision, with precision that can only come from years of practice. What happened to Rihanna wasn't an accident. It wasn't a breakdown. It was a procedure, and she's not the first. Before we examine Rihanna's case, we need to understand the medical infrastructure that made it possible. Since the 1990s, a network of specialized facilities has operated within major hospitals, offering what they call consciousness recalibration therapy to high-profile clients. These aren't psychiatric wards or rehabilitation centers. There's something else entirely. Private floors, unmarked rooms, staff who specialize in procedures that don't appear in any medical textbooks. The patients who enter these facilities are always celebrities at crucial career transition points, and they always emerge changed. Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles houses one such facility. Floor 7 West, officially listed as extended care research, has treated dozens of entertainment industry figures over the past 2 decades. The patient list reads like a who's who of pop culture. Musicians whose sound dramatically evolved overnight, actors who suddenly displayed completely different personalities, influencers who emerged with new belief systems and altered speech patterns. The procedures performed on this floor aren't documented in patient files. Instead, they're recorded in a separate database, accessible only to a handful of specialists who move between facilities in Los Angeles, New York, Nashville, and London. These doctors don't advertise their services. They don't take insurance, and they never speak publicly about their work. Dr. Helena Vasquez worked on Floor 7 West from 2009 to 2015. After leaving Cedars-Sinai, she attempted to expose what she'd witnessed, but her medical license was revoked within months. Before disappearing entirely, she managed to leak fragments of patient records that revealed the true scope of these operations. According to Vasquez's documents, the procedures involve a combination of experimental neuropharmacology, electromagnetic brain stimulation, and what the files describe as personality architecture reconstruction. The goal isn't to heal mental illness or addiction. It's to fundamentally alter who the patient is at their core. The process takes exactly 72 hours. Patients enter as one person and emerge as someone else wearing the same face. November 2012, Rihanna was at the peak of her career, but also at her most vulnerable. The Unapologetic album was scheduled for release in 3 weeks. Her relationship with Chris Brown was dominating headlines, and her business empire was expanding rapidly. But behind the success, she was struggling with something deeper. Those closest to her during this period describe a woman who seemed to be fighting an internal war. She would have conversations where she appeared to be arguing with herself, switching between different vocal tones and personality traits mid-sentence. Friends reported that she would sometimes stare at her reflection in mirrors for hours, as if studying a stranger. Melissa Crawford, her former assistant, broke her NDA in 2019 to reveal disturbing details about Rihanna's mental state leading up to the hospitalization. She kept saying someone else was trying to use her voice. Not metaphorically, literally. She'd be talking normally, then suddenly her tone would drop an octave, and she'd say things that didn't sound like her thoughts. Then she'd snap back and ask why everyone was looking at her strangely. The most disturbing incident occurred during a recording session on November 15th. Studio engineer Marcus Thompson, who has worked with dozens of A-list artists, described what he witnessed as the most unsettling thing I've ever seen in 30 years of recording. According to Thompson, Rihanna entered the vocal booth to record harmonies for a track. But when she began singing, the voice that emerged wasn't hers. It was deeper, older, and carried emotional weight that didn't match the song's content. She was singing about love and relationships, Thompson recalled, but the voice sounded like it had experienced centuries of pain. And her face, she looked terrified of what was coming out of her own mouth. The session was abruptly ended when Rihanna collapsed in the booth. When she regained consciousness 20 minutes later, she had no memory of singing at all. The recording was immediately destroyed on orders from her management team, and everyone present was required to sign expanded confidentiality agreements. 3 days later, Rihanna was admitted to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. November 18, 2012, 3:47 a.m. Rihanna arrived at Cedarssinai not through the emergency room, but via a private entrance used exclusively for VIP patients. She was accompanied by 2 individuals who weren't family members or typical management personnel. According to leaked admission records, these companions were Dr. Elena Rostova, a neuropsychiatrist specializing in identity disorders, and David Chun, listed as a consciousness integration specialist, a title that doesn't exist in conventional medicine. The official diagnosis on Rihanna's public records was listed as severe dehydration and exhaustion. But internal hospital documents tell a different story. Her actual admission was to Floor 7 West under a classification called elective personality restructuring, with a treatment timeline of exactly 72 hours. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a nurse who worked on 7 West during this period, risked her career to reveal what she witnessed during Rihanna's stay. According to Mitchell, the procedures performed on Rihanna had nothing to do with physical health. She was connected to machines I'd never seen before. Mitchell testified in a sealed deposition obtained by medical whistleblower networks. Devices that monitored brain activity, but also seemed to be transmitting something back into her neural pathways. The readouts looked more like programming code than medical data. The first 24 hours involved what Drive Rostova's notes describe as consciousness mapping. Rihanna was kept in a medically induced state while technicians used advanced brain imaging to create a detailed model of her personality structure, memory patterns, and psychological architecture. But this wasn't just diagnostic. According to the leaked files, they were creating a template, a blueprint of who Rihanna was before the procedure began. During the second day, the real work started. Rihanna was conscious but heavily sedated, connected to machines that delivered precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulses to specific regions of her brain. The goal, according to Dr. Rostova's notes, was to disrupt existing neural pathways and create space for new personality integration. The most disturbing detail from Mitchell's testimony was Rihanna's behavior during these sessions. She would switch between different voices, different accents, sometimes even different languages. It was like watching multiple people take turns using the same body, and each personality seemed to know things the others didn't. During Rihanna's 3-day stay, she received visitors who weren't listed in any official logs. Security camera footage from the hospital's private wing shows several unidentified individuals entering and leaving her room at all hours. The most significant visitor arrived on the second night, a woman in her 60s, elegantly dressed, who spent 4 hours in Rihanna's room. Security guards who were present described feeling an overwhelming urge to look away whenever this woman passed, as if their minds were actively avoiding processing her presence. Former hospital security chief James Rodriguez broke his silence in 2020, revealing details about these mysterious visits. We were told certain people would be coming to see the patient in 7 West. We were given photos, but told not to look at them directly, just to verify the faces matched. And when these people arrived, our electronic systems would malfunction. Cameras would go static, badge readers would fail. Even our radios would emit strange frequencies. The woman who visited on the second night brought something with her, a small device that Rodriguez described as like a smartphone, but thicker, with symbols instead of a normal interface. She connected this device to the medical equipment in Rihanna's room and operated it for several hours while Rihanna remained unconscious. Audio recordings recovered from the hospital's backup systems captured fragments of what occurred during these sessions. The recordings are heavily distorted, but voices can be distinguished. Rihanna's voice but speaking words she would never normally use, responding to questions in languages she doesn't speak. Most disturbing is a conversation that occurs around 2 a.m. on the second night. Voice 1, unknown woman. The integration is proceeding, but there's resistance. Voice 2, Rihanna's voice, but different cadence. The original consciousness is stronger than expected. Voice 1, can the process be completed? Voice 2, yes, but it will require adjustments. The original personality must be more thoroughly suppressed. Voice 1, and the memories? Voice 2, will be selectively modified. She'll remember being here for medical treatment, nothing more. The recording ends with the sound of machinery being adjusted and Rihanna's breathing pattern changing dramatically. The third day marked the completion of what Dr. Rostova's files call personality architecture implementation. Rihanna underwent the final phase of the procedure, the installation of new behavioral patterns, modified memories, and altered core personality traits. Nurse Mitchell's testimony reveals that this final day was the most intensive. They brought in specialists I'd never seen before. Not doctors, at least not the kind of doctors I recognized. They spoke in technical terms about consciousness overlays and identity matrices. And Rihanna, she was awake for most of it, but it wasn't really her anymore. The procedure involved what the leaked documents describe as selective memory editing, the removal of specific experiences and the installation of replacement memories that would explain any personality changes she might notice. But the most significant change was what they called voice integration. According to the technical notes, Rihanna's natural speech patterns, vocal inflections, and even her accent were systematically altered to match a predetermined profile. They played recordings through speakers positioned around her head, Mitchell recalled. Hours and hours of someone else talking, laughing, singing, and gradually, her voice started to match what was playing. It was like watching someone learn to be a different person. The process wasn't perfect. Throughout the third day, Rihanna's original personality would break through, leading to moments of confusion and panic. During one such episode, captured on audio, she could be heard asking, "Who are you making me into? I don't want to be someone else." Dr. Rostova's response was clinical. "You won't remember being anyone else. This is who you've always been." By the end of the 72-hour period, the transformation was complete. The person who had entered room 7W15 as Rihanna emerged as someone wearing Rihanna's face, but carrying a fundamentally different consciousness. November 21st, 2012, when Rihanna left Cedars-Sinai, everyone around her immediately noticed the changes. Her management team, who had been briefed on the procedure, claimed she seemed refreshed and refocused. But those who knew her personally were disturbed by how different she had become. Her former bodyguard, Kevin Williams, quit his job 3 weeks after her release. It wasn't just that she acted different, she was different. Her walking pattern changed, the way she held her shoulders. Even her laugh sounded like someone else's. I'd worked with her for 2 years, and suddenly I was protecting a stranger. The changes were most apparent in her creative output. The Unapologetic album, completed after her hospital stay, showcased a dramatically different artistic voice. Songs that had been partially recorded before her admission were completely re-recorded, with new vocal approaches that industry professionals described as unnaturally mature and emotionally sophisticated beyond her years. Music producer Samuel Jenkins, who worked on the album, noted disturbing details about Rihanna's new recording style. She would enter the booth and sing parts perfectly on the first take, as if she performed these songs countless times before. But when I asked her about her creative choices, she looked confused, like she didn't understand how she'd made those decisions. More concerning were the personality changes that affected her relationships. Friends who had known her for years found themselves unable to connect with this new version of Rihanna. Her humor was different, her interests had shifted, and most unsettling, she seemed to have detailed knowledge about subjects she'd never shown interest in before. She started talking about art history, classical music theory, ancient philosophy, recalled longtime friend Lisa Martinez. These weren't casual conversations. She had deep, sophisticated opinions about topics she'd never mentioned in the 10 years I'd known her. When I asked where this knowledge came from, she would pause for a long moment, like she was accessing information from somewhere else, then change the subject. The most dramatic change was in her business acumen. Within 6 months of her hospital stay, Rihanna had launched a series of successful ventures that required expertise she had never previously demonstrated. Her fashion line, cosmetics company, and various investments all succeeded with strategic precision that seemed impossible for someone with no formal business training. Industry insiders began referring to her transformation as the Rihanna evolution, as if her dramatic change in capabilities was a natural development. But those who understood the truth whispered about something else entirely. In the months following Rihanna's hospital stay, a systematic campaign began to silence anyone who questioned her transformation. Staff members who had worked at Cedars-Sinai during her admission were offered substantial financial incentives to maintain their silence, followed by legal threats if they refused. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the nurse who witnessed the procedures, was terminated from her position 6 months after Rihanna's discharge. When she attempted to speak publicly about what she'd seen, she found herself facing lawsuits from multiple sources, not just the hospital, but entertainment industry lawyers, medical equipment manufacturers, and even government agencies. They didn't just want me to stop talking, Mitchell explained during a clandestine interview recorded in 2018. They wanted to destroy my credibility entirely. My medical license was revoked for unprofessional conduct. My mortgage was mysteriously called in early. My car insurance was canceled. Every aspect of my life was systematically dismantled until I had no choice but to disappear. Other staff members faced similar pressure. Security guard James Rodriguez was arrested on fabricated drug possession charges. Hospital technician Maria Santos found herself under investigation by immigration services despite being a U.S. citizen. Engineer Marcus Thompson, who witnessed the recording studio incident, had his studio equipment seized by the IRS over alleged tax violations. The message was clear. Anyone who spoke about Rihanna's transformation would face complete destruction of their lives. But the suppression campaign extended beyond just silencing witnesses. Media coverage of Rihanna's hospitalization was carefully managed through a network of entertainment industry publicists, medical privacy laws, and strategic legal threats. Journalists who attempted to investigate the story found their sources disappearing, their editors receiving calls from powerful lawyers, and their own personal information mysteriously leaked online. The few articles that were published focused exclusively on the official narrative of exhaustion and dehydration, with any mention of personality changes framed as positive growth and artistic evolution. Most disturbing was the discovery that this suppression infrastructure had been used many times before. Former investigative journalist Rebecca Chun spent 3 years researching what she called the Celebrity Transformation Network before her research was destroyed in a suspicious apartment fire. Before her work was lost, Chun had identified patterns of suppression surrounding other celebrity medical emergencies that resulted in dramatic personality changes. The same law firms, the same private investigators, the same systematic destruction of anyone who asked too many questions. Rihanna's case wasn't isolated. It was part of a larger operation that has been transforming high-profile individuals for decades. The network responsible operates through a combination of specialized medical facilities, entertainment industry insiders, and technological resources that suggest backing from organizations with virtually unlimited funding. The facilities exist within major hospitals, but operate independently with their own staff, equipment, and protocols. Patients are admitted under false diagnoses, undergo procedures that aren't documented in official medical records, and emerge with altered personalities that are explained away as natural evolution or artistic growth. The technology used in these procedures is decades ahead of anything available to conventional medicine. Brain imaging systems that can map consciousness in real time, electromagnetic devices that can selectively modify neural pathways, and most disturbing, what appears to be technology capable of transferring memories and personality traits between individuals. Dr. Elena Rostova, who oversaw Rihanna's transformation, has since worked on dozens of similar cases. Hospital records leaked in 2019 show her involvement in the treatment of musicians, actors, and influencers who all emerge from their stays with dramatically different personalities and capabilities. But Rostova isn't operating independently. She's part of a team of specialists who move between facilities in Los Angeles, New York, London, and Nashville. These doctors don't maintain private practices or publish research. They exist solely to perform these transformations on high-profile individuals. The selection criteria for who undergoes these procedures appears to be based on cultural influence and career trajectory. Targets are typically artists at crucial career transition points, individuals with massive audience reach who are psychologically vulnerable due to personal struggles or professional pressures. The transformations aren't random. Each new personality appears to be specifically designed to maximize the individual's cultural impact while ensuring their compliance with broader agenda that remains hidden from public view. In Rihanna's case, the transformation created someone with enhanced business acumen, reduced emotional volatility, and most importantly, a willingness to use her platform to promote specific messages and causes that her original personality might have resisted. Today, 12 years after her transformation, Rihanna has become one of the most influential figures in global culture. Her business empire spans fashion, cosmetics, and entertainment, generating billions in revenue and employing thousands of people. Her social media posts influence political opinions, purchasing decisions, and cultural trends for hundreds of millions of followers worldwide. But those who knew the original Rihanna maintain that this success came at a terrible cost. The person who achieved these remarkable accomplishments isn't the same person who entered Cedars-Sinai in November 2012. Recent interviews with Rihanna reveal subtle signs that the transformation may not be as stable as her handlers intended. She occasionally displays moments of confusion when asked about her past, as if accessing memories that don't quite fit together. Her responses to personal questions often sound rehearsed, as if she's reciting information rather than recalling experiences. Most telling are the rare moments when her original personality appears to break through. During a 2020 interview, when asked about her creative process, she paused for nearly 30 seconds, her expression shifting to one of confusion and fear before answering in a completely different vocal tone. "Sometimes I don't recognize the person I've become." These moments are quickly explained away by her publicity team as fatigue or artistic contemplation. But for those who understand what happened in 2012, they represent something far more disturbing. Evidence that the original Rihanna still exists somewhere inside, trapped and fighting to emerge. The technology and techniques used in her transformation have since been refined and applied to other high-profile individuals. The entertainment industry's rapid evolution over the past decade, with artists displaying unprecedented business sophistication and cultural awareness, may not be natural development, but the result of systematic consciousness modification. What happened to Rihanna in November 2012 represents more than just one celebrity's transformation. It reveals the existence of a system capable of fundamentally altering human consciousness on demand, with the precision and resources to operate undetected within mainstream medical institutions. This system doesn't just create more successful entertainers. It creates individuals whose influence over global culture can be directed and controlled by forces that remain hidden from public scrutiny. Every song, every social media post, every business decision made by these transformed individuals serves purposes beyond personal success or artistic expression. The original personalities of these transformed celebrities don't disappear entirely. They remain trapped inside, occasionally breaking through in moments of confusion or distress. But their capacity to control their own lives, make independent decisions, or resist the agenda they're now programmed to serve has been systematically destroyed. Dr. Helena Vasquez, the former Cedarssinai staff member who first attempted to expose these operations, left one final message before disappearing. They're not just changing celebrities. They're beta testing techniques that could be used on anyone. The technology exists to rewrite human consciousness. The infrastructure is already in place. And the only thing stopping them from using it more widely is maintaining the illusion that these transformations are natural. The 3 days Rihanna lost in November 2012 weren't just a medical emergency. They were a demonstration of power, proof that human identity itself can be modified, controlled, and weaponized by those with the right resources and knowledge. And somewhere inside the woman we now know as Rihanna, the original consciousness remains trapped, watching helplessly as someone else lives her life, uses her voice, and influences millions of people in ways she never chose. The question isn't whether this technology exists. The evidence is overwhelming that it does. The question is, who else has been transformed, and what are they being programmed to accomplish? This content is a work of fiction created for entertainment purposes. While inspired by real events and conspiracy theories, all medical procedures, transformations, and supernatural elements described are entirely fictional. Any resemblance to real medical practices or actual events is coincidental.